January 30th, 2026. Gold loses $500 in 6 hours. Silver down 31%. The worst crash in 46 years. $7 trillion evaporates from global markets before lunch. But here's what they're not telling you. 9 days earlier, in a luxury hotel in the Swiss Alps, two men shook hands on a deal that would reshape the next 50 years. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. No cameras, no press, just translators and security. When they walked out, the tariff war was over. The euro was saved. NATO survived. And gold? Gold was about to drop hard. This is the story of the Greenland Gambit, the tariff truce, and the secret meeting that crushed the greatest commodity rally in modern history. Let's rewind. January 17th, 2026. Donald Trump posts on social media at 6:47 a.m. Denmark must sell us Greenland. Completely, totally, or face consequences. The consequences? 10% tariffs on 8 European nations. Effective February 1st. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands. And if they don't comply by June 1st, 25%. Not tariffs on top of existing duties, not symbolic slaps on the wrist. These are full-scale economic weapons aimed at America's closest allies. The demand is insane. Denmark doesn't even fully control Greenland. It's a self-governing territory, population 57,000. But Trump doesn't care about politics. He cares about what's underneath the ice. Brussels goes into panic mode. January 18th. Emergency meeting of Europe trade ministers. France wants blood. They push for the anti-coercion instrument, Europe's trade bazooka, designed specifically for moments like this. 93 billion euros in retaliatory tariffs. Ready to fire. Germany hesitates. Their car industry can't survive a trade war with America. England is stuck in the middle. Brexit already hurt them. Now they're choosing between Washington and Brussels again. The Netherlands? They're terrified. Their pharmaceutical exports to the US are worth billions. January 19th. The 8 nations issue a joint statement. Coercion has no place among allies. This threatens a dangerous downward spiral. If we put this in a classic diplomatic tone, they are saying that we're scared, but we won't bend. Markets crater. The euro drops 2% in a day. European stocks bleed red. But Trump's not bluffing, because this isn't about trade deficits or NATO spending. This is about the future. And the future is buried under 2 million square kilometers of ice. Here's what most people don't understand. These tariffs weren't designed to stay in place. They were designed to force a conversation that Europe didn't want to have. A conversation about Greenland, about who controls the Arctic, about the minerals that will power the next century. And Trump had 9 days to make Europe blink before the tariffs kicked in. 9 days to extract a deal. 9 days to rewrite the geopolitical map. The clock was ticking. So why Greenland? On the surface, it looks like frozen wasteland. Ice, snow, polar bears. But underneath, 36 million tons of rare earth elements. Neodymium, dysprosium, praseodymium. Names you can't pronounce. Minerals you've never heard of. But they're in everything. Electric car motors, wind turbine magnets, smartphone speakers, guided missiles. Every technology that defines modern life needs these elements. And right now, China controls 90% of the processing, 60% of global production, 90% of refining. If Beijing decides to cut off supply tomorrow, the American economy stops. No iPhones, no Teslas, no F-35 fighter jets. This isn't theory. China's already done it before. China restricts rare earth exports to Japan during a territorial dispute. Japan's tech industry nearly collapses overnight. The message was clear. We own the minerals. We own you. Now look at Greenland's deposits. The Kvanefjeld project, the Tanbreeze site, these aren't small finds. Greenland ranks 8th globally in rare earth reserves. But here's the kicker. Most of the island hasn't even been surveyed yet. With climate change melting the ice sheets, new deposits are appearing every year. Some geologists think Greenland could have the 2nd largest reserves on Earth, plus copper, graphite, zinc, even uranium, though that's banned from mining since 2021. This isn't just an island, it's a geological treasure chest, and it's sitting right in America's backyard. Strategically, it's perfect. Control Greenland, and you control Arctic shipping lanes. You control the shortest route between North America and Europe. You control military positioning against Russia. And most importantly, you break China's chokehold on the minerals that power the future. This is what economists call resource nationalism. When countries hoard critical resources to gain strategic leverage, it's an old game with new stakes. Venezuela uses oil, Russia uses natural gas, Saudi Arabia uses petroleum, China uses rare earths. And now Trump wants America to use Greenland. But there's a problem. These mines don't exist yet. They're proposals, plans, decades away from production. Tanbreez won't be operational until the 2030s if it gets funded. Kavane Field is stuck in environmental reviews. So why is Trump pushing so hard right now? Because China's moving fast, belt and road projects, mineral acquisitions across Africa and South America. Beijing's locking down supply chains while America argues about permits. Trump's message is simple. We're out of time. We need Greenland, and we need it now. Even if the mines won't produce for another decade, securing the rights today means everything. January 21st, 2026. Davos, Switzerland. The World Economic Forum, where the global elite gather to pretend they care about inequality while drinking $20 coffee. But this year, there's real business to handle. Trump meets with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The meeting is scheduled for 1 hour. It runs 90 minutes. No press allowed, no leaks, just two men and their teams hammering out the impossible. What happens inside that room stays secret. But at 4:37 p.m. Central European Time, they emerge. Rutte looks exhausted. Trump looks like he just won a casino jackpot. The announcement comes fast. We have reached a framework for a future deal regarding Greenland and broader Arctic cooperation. The tariffs? Canceled. February 1st deadline? Gone. The 25% escalation? Off the table. Markets explode upward. The euro rallies 3% in minutes. European stocks erase a week of losses in one afternoon. Gold and silver spike briefly, then start to wobble. But nobody knows what's actually in the framework. Rutte's statement is deliberately vague. Greenland's sovereignty was not discussed. This is about partnership and mutual security interests. Translation: we're not selling the island, but we're giving you something. Over the next 48 hours, details leak. Anonymous sources, off-the-record briefings, diplomatic whispers. Here's what emerges. 1. The United States gets exclusive mineral exploration and extraction rights for rare earth elements in designated Greenland territories. 2. America funds and builds the Golden Dome, Trump's proposed Arctic missile defense system. 3. U.S. military bases in Greenland get expanded, more troops, more infrastructure. 4. Denmark keeps sovereignty, Greenland keeps self-governance, but America gets the resources. It's brilliant, and it's cynical. Europe saves face. Trump gets his minerals, NATO survives. Denmark doesn't have to sell Greenland, they just have to lease the valuable parts to Washington for the next 50 years. And the European nations targeted by tariffs, they breathe again. Crisis averted, trade war canceled. The headlines call it a diplomatic victory. But in the commodity pits of New York and Shanghai, traders are starting to panic. Because if the geopolitical crisis is over, why do we still need gold? January 30th wasn't just some random dip, it was a straight-up math execution. At 10:30 a.m., way before the official news even dropped, things started getting shaky. In just 28 minutes, gold tanked by $380. That's 7% of its value poof gone in the time it takes to go grab a Starbucks. Silver had it even worse. It totally wiped out, dropping 11% in that same 30-minute window. Why did it happen? Because the CME Group, basically the bosses of the world's biggest trading floor, straight up hit the panic button. They didn't just raise the price to play, they weaponized it. On Friday morning, the CME cranked up the margin for silver to 18%. In just 10 days, the extra cash you needed to hold your spot had jumped by 20%. Think about it like this. If you were a big shot trader with $1 million bet, you suddenly had to cough up an extra $50,000 in cash just to keep your trade alive. If you didn't have the bread, the exchange's computers sold your stuff for you instantly at whatever trash price they could get. The Warsh announcement at 1:45 p.m. was the final knockout. When Trump picked Kevin Warsh to run the Fed, the dream of free money forever died. Warsh is the guy who quit the Fed back in 2011 because he hated how they were printing money. Now, he was back to business. The dollar value shot up to a 2-year high in seconds. For the traders in New York and Shanghai who were betting with borrowed money, the exit door was way too small. It was a total stampede. One expert called it the Great Reset. Others said it was like GameStop for 2026. But for regular people who bought silver at $121 earlier that week, it was a straight-up tragedy. Trillions of dollars just evaporated because of a tough new Fed boss and a major cash squeeze. So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out. Europe bent, but it didn't break. The tariff threat was real. The economic pain would have been catastrophic. But Trump got what he wanted without firing a shot. Mineral rights in Greenland. Military expansion in the Arctic, a framework that gives America a seat at the table for the next 50 years. Denmark keeps the island, Greenland keeps autonomy, but Washington gets the resources. Now here's the twist. None of this matters for a decade. Kvanefjeld won't be operational until the late 2030s, if ever. Tambreez is still chasing funding, environmental reviews, indigenous consultations, infrastructure build-out. Mining in the Arctic isn't like drilling in Texas. It's slow, it's expensive, it's complicated. So why did Trump push so hard for something that won't produce results until he's 80 years old? Because China's not waiting? While America argues about regulations, Beijing's locking down lithium in Chile, cobalt in Congo, rare earths in Myanmar. The Greenland framework isn't about mining next year. It's about making sure that in 2040, when those mines finally open, they're flying American flags, not Chinese ones. And gold? It's already bounced back 15% from the January 30th lows. Silver's up 20%. Because here's the thing, the crash didn't change. Central banks are still buying gold at record levels. Government debt is still exploding. The dollar might be strong today, but the structural problems haven't gone away. The Davos meeting didn't kill the bull market in precious metals. It just hit the reset button, flushed out the leverage, shook out the weak hands. The traders who got wiped out on January 30th, they were playing the short game. But the real money, the sovereign wealth funds, the central banks, the generational wealth families, they're still accumulating because they know something the day traders don't. This isn't about next month. It's about the next decade. Here's the final piece. Greenland still isn't for sale. Trump didn't buy it. Denmark didn't cave. But America just bought something more valuable than ownership. Access, control, strategic positioning. The framework gives Washington everything it needs without the political headache of annexation. And when those rare earth mines finally open in 15 years, when the Tambreez facility is pulling millions of tons of neodymium out of the ground, when American manufacturers can build EV motors without begging China for permission, that handshake in Davos will look like the deal of the century. So let's recap. January 17th, Trump threatens tariffs unless Europe sells Greenland. January 21st, secret meeting in Davos. Framework announced. Tariffs canceled. January 30th, gold and silver crash. $7 trillion evaporates. The media called it a Fed chair nomination. But the real story is geopolitics. Trump weaponized tariffs to force a conversation about the future. Europe gave up mineral rights to save its economy. China lost its monopoly on the resources that matter most. And gold? Gold was collateral damage in a much bigger war. The Greenland Gambit worked, not because America bought an island, but because America secured the next 50 years of resource independence without spending a dime on the purchase price. The game isn't over. It's just beginning. Because in 10 years, when those mines are operational, the world will look very different. The dollar might be weaker, China might be stronger, Europe might be fractured, but America will control the minerals. And in the 21st century, the nation that controls the resources controls the future. The Davos handshake saved the euro. It crushed gold. And it quietly rewrote the map of global power. You just didn't notice. You just didn't notice.